Okay, so let's talk about YouTube. If you've ever tried to do a digital detox, you've probably given YouTube a free pass, right? We all tell ourselves it's different, it's educational, it's productive. But what if that's just a convenient story we're telling ourselves? What if that habit is costing us way more than we realize? In this explainer, we're going to break down a really practical way to get your time back from that YouTube rabbit hole. And the best part is, you don't even have to quit completely.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to tackle what's called the productive illusion, that feeling that we're doing something useful when we're probably not. Then we'll get into why just trying to quit cold turkey usually fails. And after that, we'll dive into a simple three-step solution. First, changing your mindset, then building some smart barriers, and finally, figuring out what to do with all that time you're about to reclaim. And this is where it all starts, isn't it? We look at something like TikTok or Instagram and we think, okay, that's digital junk food. But YouTube feels like the healthy option, the salad of the internet. We go there to learn something, to watch a documentary, to fix a leaky pipe. It feels useful, so we don't treat it like the other time-wasting apps. But let's be real for a second. How much of your time on YouTube is actually spent on that one specific useful video? And how much of it is spent clicking on the next thing and the next until you're 5 videos deep in a rabbit hole you never even meant to be in? Well, the core idea from our source material is that pretty much all of it, yeah, even the educational stuff is just filler. All right, so let's pull the curtain back on this whole productive illusion. What's the real cost of our YouTube habit? It really starts when you look at the one thing you can never, ever get back, your time. Just think about your average day for a minute. You've got your non-negotiables, right? There's work, school, sleep, gotta eat, maybe do some chores. All that stuff takes up a huge chunk of your 24 hours. So what about what's left over? In those few precious hours that are actually yours to do whatever you want with, what are you doing? How much of that time is spent just looking at a screen? Well, the answer is kind of shocking. A TED Talk mentioned in our source material found that for young people, 93% of their remaining free time is spent staring at a screen. That's basically all of it. When you're faced with a number like that, the whole idea of productive screen time just doesn't sound very convincing anymore, does it? So if you've already had this realization, you've probably tried to quit before. The problem is, most of the advice out there is kind of setting you up to fail. Let's look at why the usual all-or-nothing approach just doesn't cut it for a platform like YouTube. You've got two basic approaches here. On the left is the cold turkey method. It's extreme, it's super restrictive, and honestly, it ignores the fact that YouTube can be useful sometimes. But the smarter approach on the right is way more nuanced. It doesn't treat the whole platform like it's evil. Instead, it goes after the real problem, that endless fire hose of algorithm-recommended filler content. And this right here is the absolute key. The problem isn't that video you intentionally searched for about how to change a tire. No, the problem is the chain of auto-playing recommended videos that comes right after it. You know the ones. They're not that fun, they're not really relaxing, and they are definitely not productive. They're just there to fill the silence. Okay, so how do we actually fix this? Well, it doesn't start with an app or a setting. It starts inside your own head, with a big shift in how you look at the platform. Honestly, this is the most powerful step in the entire process. So we're going to walk through this super simple 3-part framework. First, change the mindset. Second, build some barriers to help that new mindset stick. And third, reclaim your time. So let's start with number 1, the foundation for everything else, changing your mindset. Now here's what's so interesting about this. We all know that watching funny cat videos is a waste of time. But this mindset shift is about something deeper. It's about consciously admitting that even the smart videos, the podcast clips, the video essays, the self-help stuff, are also mostly a waste of time. You watch them, you get a little hit of feeling productive, and then nothing. You walk away the exact same person. Your life doesn't actually change. And that's why just downloading a blocker app usually doesn't work. When you do that, you're constantly fighting yourself, fighting that urge to just turn it off for a minute. It's an exhausting battle of willpower, and as we all know, willpower runs out. This is the end goal. Real freedom isn't about building a wall so high that you can't reach the temptation. It's about looking that temptation dead in the eye and just feeling nothing. Indifference. Because when you genuinely believe that the video in front of you is useless, the urge to click just disappears. And that leads us perfectly into step 2.
Once you've made that mindset shift, then you can bring in some tools. But don't think of them as a prison. Think of them more like a support system, like a backup plan for your new way of thinking. Our source material recommends two main tools here. For your computer, a browser extension called UnTrap, and for your phone, an app called ScreenZen. And the goal of both of them isn't to block you out completely, but just to break those automatic, mindless habits we all fall into. Okay, so UnTrap for your computer is pretty cool because it's so customizable. You can kill the infinite scroll, so the homepage actually has an end. You can hide the recommended videos, hide the comment section, and even turn on a grayscale mode that makes everything less shiny and addictive. And most importantly, you can just tell it to hide shorts completely. Gone. Now, on your phone, ScreenZen has a different strategy. When you tap the YouTube app, it makes you pause. You have to wait for, say, 5 or 10 seconds, and while you're waiting, it shows you a message that you wrote for yourself. The source actually recommends you make it a little insulting just to kind of snap you out of that zombie scrolling mode. And maybe its best feature is a super powerful separate blocker just for shorts, which, let's face it, have gotten way too good at grabbing our attention. So, you've shifted your mindset. You've put up your barriers. Now what? Now comes the best part. What are you actually going to do with all this extra time and mental energy? This is step 3, reclaim your time. The key here is to replace the old, empty habit with something that isn't just another screen. Don't just trade YouTube for another app. Use that new time to read a book, to really study something you're interested in, to exercise, to just go outside. And maybe the ultimate goal is to start creating something yourself, instead of only consuming what everyone else is making. And really, this is the question that this whole journey leads to. When you put these steps into practice, you're not just breaking a bad habit, you are literally creating new free time in your life. So the real challenge and the real excitement is deciding what you're going to do with it. You have your time back. Now what?